very, very important for us not to rely on tariff to sell cars, but really, really to face the Chinese competition on the same field, which is production cost and technology. We need to be able to sell electric cars even without subsidies, and the only way to do it is to work concretely on the production costs.
French carmaker Citroen says that with the release of its C5 Aircross, it now has electric offerings from battery electric to plug-in hybrid across its entire passenger vehicle range, and that's a first in company history. Thierry Koskas is CEO of Citroen, which is part of the Stellantis group. Thierry, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Tell us, what kind of milestone is this for your company? And perhaps what kind of milestone is it for Stellantis as well, which encompasses brands from Dodge to Fiat and even Maserati?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a very important milestone because, as you rightly said, we were missing part of the lineup with an electric offer. Now we have an electric offer in absolutely all our models, and it's very important because in spite of what we hear about the slowdown of the electric adoption, we still think it's a big part of the solution for the CO2 and for the car industry, and that's why we are very pleased today to offer with the new C5 Aircross a complete electric offer in our Citroen range.
Thierry, your electric models are often very simple and straightforward, from the batteries to the interiors and the operating systems. As far as I understand, in order to keep costs and variation low, can you talk about your strategy and who is the buyer you're looking for?
Well, absolutely, and this is one of the specificity at Citroen. It's precisely to offer affordable electric car. We know that one of the main hurdles that we have for electric cars is the price. And what we did starting a year ago with the new EC3 is to offer the first affordable electric car made in Europe, starting at 23,000 euros. And we are very much appealing to private customers that would be interested by buying an affordable car with a low running cost. What we can observe since we launched the C3 is, first of all, the mix of BEV on this car on the orders is 30%, so it's very, very significant. And we can see also younger customers buying an electric car because it just makes absolutely sense. The running cost is very, very competitive. So we are very much appealing to private customers and younger private customers with our electric offer.
And that would be as opposed to perhaps fleets or sort of larger purchasers. I would also assume this is a very urban buyer, mostly using it for intercity kind of transport.
Well, actually, not really, because yes, you can obviously use the car in a city, but the beauty of our electric cars, particularly the ones that we launched recently, the EC3 or the EC3 Aircross, is they all have fast charging, which means that not only you can use it in a very simple way in the city and so on, but you can also go on longer trips. You can have a 100 kilowatt charger in the car, which means that in less than 30 minutes, you would fully recharge your battery. And this is obviously very convenient, particularly in countries like Germany. It's also the case in my home country in France, where we have a very well-developed infrastructure. So the car is very convenient for any type of usage, not only urban, but also to make longer trips. It's absolutely not a problem.
That raises my next point. I believe from what I've seen that the EC3 is right now the lowest cost European-made battery electric vehicle being offered right now. At the same time, affordability is a big issue, as you mentioned, but also infrastructure. Not every country has a well built out charging infrastructure right now. How important is that in the markets in which you're operating?
Well, it's absolutely paramount, and you're right to mention that. When we look at the hurdles to push the EV adoption, we have three: the price, the infrastructure, and the range. Price, we deal with that at Citroen, offering very affordable electric cars. Range, we think that we offer sufficient range for all the usage. On an EC3, you can enjoy 320 kilometers. On the new C5 Aircross, that will go up to 680 kilometers. And then there is the charging infrastructure. And this is where we need two things. First of all, make it easy to put a plug at home. Some countries are very much in the forefront of that. They have improved all the paperwork and so on, but also to reassure customers with the right infrastructure in the motorway, in the cities, in the public space, and so on. This is very, very important. We have countries that are really at the forefront of that. This is the case in Germany, that's the case in Netherlands, that's the case in France. Other countries are less advanced in that, but it's really, really paramount that there is an effort from public and private actors to push the implementation and infrastructure to reassure customers. Last point, when I travel every day with an EC4, and I'm really, really reassured because I know that every petrol station I will stop, I will find some plugs. So it's very reassuring for customers.
As you rightly mentioned, there are a lot of trade-offs in these markets. You mentioned range, for example. Sufficient range is what you said for the EC3. Obviously, not the range of some other cars on the higher end. At the same time, the operating system too has been really a big hurdle for a lot of electric car makers. With the EC3 and some other models, I believe you've solved this by just simplifying it and running things essentially off of an app. How difficult is this operating system question for electric car makers?
Well, it's absolutely a critical point because you want to make the customer's life very simple. We were the first brand as Stellantis to introduce what we call e-route, which is a very simple trip planner that you have on an app that you can mirror, by the way, on the screen of your vehicle. And it's super simple. I use it every day, so I know that by heart. You just say where you want to go, what battery status you want to reach at the end. You can also parameterize your profile. Do you want to stop very often charging for a quick time, or do you want to stop less often but charging for a longer time? And then it just guides you in a very, very simple way towards the next charging point. And also the beauty of the system is it tells you in real time how many plugs are free. So it's super, super reassuring. It's very simple. This is, we think, very much a condition for EV adoption. That's why every customer that would buy an electric car from Citroen would be shown the new app and would be shown how easy it is to use the e-route trip planner.
Is it, again, going back to this point about the simplicity behind some of your electric models right now? This really is key, correct? Is really tamping down on the number of options and variabilities to really kind of standardize an electric production, simplify the OS, sort of a more basic battery. You see this as fundamental for adoption. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fundamental from various point of view. First of all, it's fundamental from the production cost point of view. To give you a concrete example, when we designed the new EC3, the car is super simple. The lineup is super simple, and for example, there is no option on the car, which makes obviously the production much easier and obviously less costly. So it's paramount from this point of view. But it's also very important from a customer point of view. I think that we can see a trend with customers, less and less appetite to complicated technology and so on. This is really the way we are going, offering a very simple lineup With an app, you can navigate, you can do anything we want. We are not offering basic cars. We are offering cars with the necessary content, but not overloaded with a lot of technology that many customers would think is not so useful.
The latest statistics out of Europe, 60% of new sales in March 2025, again, this is in Europe, were electric. That's battery electric. That's also hybrid. That sounds pretty good. Total market share of electric is at 15.2%. How would you describe the market here in Europe, which has been really struggling lately? How do you see it?
Well, it's obviously a very challenging market now because all the supply crisis and so on are now behind us. So we have a lot of offer on the market, and we all the OEMs have now a big challenge, which is to comply with the CO2 regulation. So it's a challenging market, but every time you have a challenge, it's also a market full of opportunities. And we think that if we are able to offer the right products with the right price, the right content, and so on, you can have a lot of opportunities. We can see Citroen gaining now market share compared to the last quarter of last year. We are ramping up in the production of all our cars, particularly the new C3, the new C3 Across. The new C5 Across is coming in the second part of the year. So they are full of opportunities, but in a very challenging context. But we think it's a great moment for us to offer products that really appeal to the customers.
How important is it for car makers to be rolling out hybrids right now? They seem to be the much more popular version of electric auto that buyers want. Or is that a wave that's going to eclipse by the time those models start rolling out and people are going to be more comfortable with battery electric vehicles?
Well, I think I would not oppose one and the other, which means I think it's very much complementary. You will still have customers who are either it doesn't fit their usage, or they are still a bit reluctant to go for full electric cars, or they have absolutely no possibility to recharge their car at home, and they would go for a car that is electrified. By the way, we also announced last week that we are launching the C3 hybrid. So it's also very important. Well, it's a simple way. I would say, the entry gate to electrification. You have a car that is low CO2. It's partly electrified, but it's fair to say that you don't have to worry about how are you going to recharge it and so on. So I would not oppose one or the other. That's why Citroen is offering both hybrid and electric, plug-in hybrid, by the way, on some of our lineup. We think it's absolutely complementary, and we think that there is also a great future for hybrid cars, simply because it's a lower CO2 output, and that's obviously very good to comply with the CO2 regulation.
We know that in France, there's still a subsidy for buyers of electric vehicles. Germany ended its subsidy in 2023. The new government is talking about other subsidies in play right now. How do you see sales develop between these two markets? I'm curious, where one has a subsidy and one doesn't.
Well, actually, I would say we need to learn to sell electric cars without subsidy. Why? Because we know that in the long term, subsidies anyway will fade away, because when we have very high percentage of electric cars, no government will be able to afford, a very costly subsidy. It's obviously welcome in the short term. I think it helps the adoption of electric cars. But if you take France, for the vast majority of customers, now it's down to 2,000 euros for private customers. So it's not as high as it used to be in the past. And I think that the situation between France and Germany is now becoming very much comparable. So I would say, in a pragmatic way, it helps but we need to be able to sell electric cars even without subsidies. And the only way to do it is to work concretely on the production costs. It's also, by the way, a way to fight against the Chinese brands, and this is what Citroen is doing with affordable electric cars like the EC3.
Speaking of Chinese electric vehicles, do you hold the same to be true when it comes to tariffs against Chinese competitors selling in the EU? Do you believe that those are actually obscuring the kind of competitive forces that need to be unleashed for this kind of market?
Well, actually, I would say in a very pragmatic way, in the short term, it helps to obviously protect a little our industry, but we shall all be aware that we cannot, in the midterm or in the long term, rely on tariffs to survive, because we know that tariffs can come, they can go away, and also what is critical is Citroen is selling cars in many countries outside Europe, and we are competing against the Chinese in many countries where there is no tariff difference. I mean, we are selling cars in Turkey, we are selling cars in Israel, we are selling cars in many countries where EV adoption has been really pushed, but there is no tariff difference, I would say, between Chinese and non-Chinese OEM, and that forces us to face the competition on the same field with the same weapon, and that's why it's very important for us not to rely on tariff to sell cars, not to rely on tariffs to resist against the competition, but really to face the Chinese competition on the same field, which is production cost and technology.
Your parent company will not just face the competition, they'll work with them. They have a partnership with Leapmotor to build some of those vehicles in Europe, which would, of course, get around those tariffs. What does that mean for your company and for your offerings?
Well, I think it's a pragmatic strategy. We have, as you rightly said, a participation in a Chinese brand. It's also very much a way to learn from the Chinese, to learn on what they say. I would say today it's very much complementary offer. I don't see it as a threat against Citroën. Anyway, the Chinese competition exists, whether it's internal or external. It exists, and that's a great trigger for us to be every day better and to offer more appealing products in terms of cost, in terms of content, in terms of competition. So I very much welcome this, I would say, internal competition, because it's a good trigger for us. And anyway, the competition would exist anyway with Chinese brands, so that doesn't change anything on the fact that Citroën is operating in a very challenging market.
The U.S. is not really a market for Citroën, as far as I know, but I would imagine that auto tariffs from the U.S. will still play some sort of role for your company. What is that role?
Well, it's obviously a topic for Stellantis, as you rightly mentioned. We have many brands, and we have big operations in the US. We have four American brands with Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler. Bon, Citroën is not directly concerned, because not only we do not sell cars in the US, but we do not have parts, or not so many parts coming from the US. So I would say today it's not a topic for me. It's obviously a topic for Stellantis, but I would let people from Stellantis express their view on that. But as head of Citroën, I'm not directly concerned by this topic.
And then finally, we've seen across Europe that Tesla sales have actually fallen dramatically amongst buyers here. Could that be to Citroën's benefit, or are those two different buyers?
Well, I don't think it's different buyers, and I'm really glad that we today launched the new C5 Aircross. When you look at the fact that we offer an electric version with up to 680 kilometer range, which is at the best level of the competition, including, by the way, Tesla competition. We are very much welcoming Tesla buyers who will find with the new C5 Aircross not only an excellent electric range, but also everything that makes the DNA of Citroen, particularly a very comfortable and very spacious car. So they are absolutely welcome, and I consider it's an opportunity for us.
All right, Thierry Koskas is CEO of Citroen. Thierry, thank you very much.